Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about Fires of Vengeance. We're going to just do a book discussion on it, not necessarily really a review, but talk over what Evan Winter did really well and what I like in storytelling, and then some cons here and there, but not too much because I really enjoyed this book. But yeah, we're going to talk about Fires of Vengeance today by Evan Winter. To just start out, I absolutely love this book, and Evan Winter absolutely knocked it out of the park for me. I was watching reviews for the first book, and a lot of people really didn't like how Teo was basically just like this revenge machine and really didn't care about anything else, and all like hated, and he just hated everything. And people did not like that because they couldn't relate to him. I actually really did, because of all the hardships that he put himself through in the first book, and it made a lot of the events that happened in this book very realistic, because we know what Teo has been through. I'm going to call him Teo. I know that probably sounds really weird, but that's how I read it. But that's what Teo has gone through, all of these really horrible things. And now all the stuff that he does in the second book, it's very realistic. I'll do a spoiler for at least a little part, the first like 1 or 2 chapters of the book. The first like 2 or 3 chapters of the book, but I'll go into full spoilers later. So the first little bit, you can definitely tell that Teo is definitely OP, because at the beginning of the book, Evan Winter had to give him a little handicap of getting like stabbed with poison, and it's been a thing, but Teo is still just like absolutely crazy. He's decimating everybody throughout the book, and it's really cool to see, because you know when it's that moment that's been building up this whole time and it's about to happen, you're just so excited for it. I'm trying not to be too specific to get into spoilers, but that's one of the things that Evan Winter has done very well, is that his characters are very realistic, and he puts them through all of these hardships to gain more and more power, more and more strength, and that it's realistic to expect the kind of power that they have, and he does a very good job at that. Another thing that he does is his pacing is just done so well, and it's something that I have looked into in writing my book and how I want to pace my stuff, because the way that his stuff reads, I like a lot. It's more of the pacing that I want for my book. He cuts out a lot of those really boring conversations with diplomacy. Now, if you like diplomatic stuff, you know, a lot of Brandon's books do that. A lot of George R.R. Martin's books do that, and it's really cool, and they do them very well. But for me, especially when I read those Brandon books and everyone's just sitting around talking about diplomatic matters, I'm like, it's like a slog for me, because I'm like, I don't care. I love small moments that make you connect and really care with the characters, whether that's between friends or lovers or enemies, or you know, whatever they're going through. I love to have those moments where you really connect with them, and then I like action like right after that. I love to just like like that fast sort of pace stuff going on, not too fast where it's just action, you can't connect with characters, but a good balance between diplomatic talks and then split with action and those really like connecting moments. And I think Evan Winter does a great job at doing this, especially with Teo and Tesoria. That's how I say her name too. I probably get that wrong as well, but it's so I can just read it faster. All right. But that, I have really loved their sort of development throughout the book, and I won't get into any more spoilers, but them and the squad that Teo is with the entire time, and growing of their brotherhood, and also the strains in their relationship. Not everybody's always on the same page, and I have definitely learned a lot from Evan Winter when it comes to pacing and writing his books. It's like the first time that I thought of being like, I want to send like an email or like a letter and just be like, and just like gush over his stuff and how he goes about his process. And I would love to talk to him about, his whole process of writing a book and stuff like that. I've seen his interviews with Daniel Green, and it was really cool, but Evan Winter has really made a huge impact on me when it comes to structures of books, almost in the same way that Brandon has sort of done that as well. And I'm very interested to get into more and more fantasy. I'm reading Poppy War right now, and Poppy War is kind of like that. Like, it's not exactly obviously like Evan Winter's book, but it's that fast pace. Like, I was able to roll through like 100 pages really quickly because events were happening in a way that I really liked. I still love A Song of Ice and Fire, and I still love Stormlight Archive. It's just definitely those parts where it's like long, drawn out diplomatic things. Another instance I can think of is Attack on Titan does this as well. I've read the entire manga, and I won't give spoilers, but there's definitely parts where they have, it's like really crazy action twist stuff going on, and then you'll go through like almost a volume of them like talking and traveling and like all of this stuff, and I'm like, my god, I get it. And they do it in a certain way where it makes sense for their story. It's the kind of story where you need all of that sort of build up, so and then the payoff is so much better, right? I like those kind of stories, and it's just very different, if you get what I mean. And I love the way that Evan Winter does it, and I want to try to emulate that as well in my own work. But yeah, so I absolutely love this book. I listed off some of the things that I think Evan Winter does very well, and especially all the way up until the climax of the book and the resolution of the book. This book definitely at the end, here comes like my con, is it does suffer from like the middle book disease. I will give a caveat that I was coming to the end of this book and I was like, no, I don't want it to end. Like, I want more of Taeyu's adventures. I want 10, 15 books about Taeyu and all the crazy stuff that's going to go down. And I thought it was a trilogy, but I just found out it was 4 books. So I am super excited about that, so you can get one more extra adventure with him. But yeah, I was just like sitting up and I was like, dude, I don't want this to end. I was like 85, 90% through, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's where the middle book syndrome comes in. The book really ends on at like 85% through, 87% through. I read it on the Kindle, so I know kind of the percentages. And then the last 10% of the book is the setup for the next book. And that was the only thing that I didn't really like. What Evan Winter did very well, though, is he set up a lot of world building that was actually really cool for Taeyu throughout the story. So, and then the payoff of that happens at the end of the book, which is really cool. It's sort of a payoff. It's like a beginning of a payoff. But we'll get the real payoff when those events start coming into fruition. But I thought it was really cool how he did his world building and then did it in a very interesting and cool way that didn't feel like a slog or didn't feel like he was info dumping. Definitely as a reader, I was like, okay, yep, we're getting into the lore and info dump chapter now. But it was done in a way where it was a bonding experience between Taeyu and Tesoria, and I thought it worked out really good. But all of that payoff, all of that setup, and all of that progress eventually led to the payoff at the end of the book. And I was like, okay, cool. Yes, you did do the payoff. You did all of that. It's not necessarily like you didn't tie up ends for just that book specifically, because I felt like enough was resolved to be able to end the book. But it definitely is just like, it's definitely like an ending that's like to be continued, right? Where more of, I guess the first book kind of did that too, but it was more like, we're going on the next adventure. Like, it was at the end of the first book, Taeyu is just like, the queen comes to him and he becomes champion, and it's like, I'm ready to kill the man that killed my father. And it's like, oh cool, this is the adventure we're going to get into book 2. Where this one was like, the great enemy. Okay, so now we're in spoilers for the second book. Just warning, guys, this is the end of the book. So click away now if you do not want to have spoilers. But what he did was set up all of this lore at the beginning, and then it kind of happens the same way at the end of this book, where it's like, the great ancient enemy our people have been fighting is coming back, and we need to join with our enemies to be able to defeat them, in the same way that all the lore was set up earlier, how they had to join together or they would die. That's why they had to go to this new land. So now that enemy has completely obliterated their people on the other land, and they're coming over to, and they've already started attacking Zindians and Omehi people. So I kind of want to do like lore videos, and I want to do maybe like a theory videos on this, because it's really got me captured of what the story is trying to tell. But yeah, that's how it ends. It's like, our ancient enemy is back, and then it ends, and it's like, I don't know. I felt kind of weird at the end of it. Not the way that I felt at the end of the first one. Maybe it was because the book was already out, so I was like, yes, I get to go into book 2, where this one, book 3 isn't out yet, and I'm like so sad because I can't get into book 3. Maybe that's more of what I'm feeling. But I definitely did feel kind of weird at the end of the book, where I was like, oh man, like it ends here. I think the problem was, I'm like just thinking through it verbally now. I think the problem was that the promise was that we would fight their army, or we would like come to some kind of resolution with Naha. Wow, what's his name? With the Zindian prince guy, Prince Warlord, whatever he is. I forgot his name. But whoever he is, I expected some kind of resolution in this book. But that doesn't happen. And I think it's fine, because you don't need a resolution now, and that's kind of the drama that'll set up probably the first part of the book, of book 3, and it makes sense. It's just that promise, I guess, wasn't kept. That was the only promise that wasn't kept, where it was like, he's gonna come back and we need to be able to, and we need to like be ready and like defeat them against such terrible odds. But we see that another contender's in here, and it's not just him. And I don't think it had to be a huge battle, because we got a huge battle in this book, but I definitely would have liked a little bit more of a resolution here. But at the same time, I could see, because it doesn't work, because the tension won't be the same for book 3. Like, the tension going into the next book is just like, you have this guy after you, you have the Cull after you, and you're just against insurmountable odds, and you have to be the one to be able to fix it with this warlord. So, and then all the tribes of these Indians can come together, and you guys can defeat the Cull. So I think next book will probably have to be them bringing together the Zindian tribes, and then book 4 is them going and trying to defeat the Cull. And I think this is something obvious, or maybe it's something different, I don't know. But the next book is called Lord of Demons, and there's this demon thing that's coming after them, and I don't know if this is a Cull or not, because when I saw that demon, I thought of pale skin, and they say that the Cull are of silver skin. So I don't know if this is exactly the Cull, or this is like the Cull's Isiogo. I forgot what it was called. I just read it in my mind, so I don't really know. Isiogo. Somebody help me with that one. But the hell version of their world, is that what the Cull look like when they go into that world, or is that just how they normally look like? This demon lord is definitely connected to the Cull, unless, yeah, it has to be. It has to be that they're connected for the end of the book. I'm just like getting into like theory land now, because I'm like, okay, you can fix the Zindian and Cull problem book 3, I guess, but the way that he paces his books, I don't see that happening. And then the 4th book is about him defeating whatever demon lord is down there. Whatever. I think it's all connected, obviously, and I think we're gonna get a full explanation of like how this whole magic system works and why it works for different people the way that it does, because obviously the shaman use their magic very differently of how the Omehi people use it, and the nobles and lessers use it, because obviously that's two different peoples, I guess, and they use it very differently, and we can see that explained in the book. Anyway, I'm getting into Theoryland. I'm so sorry. I need to make a theory video on this, but I really love the book, just to say, and it flew by for me. It was so fast. It was such a great read. You could tell that Evan Winter really combs over his work and make sure that each word is the word that he wants in the book. I've heard him talk about it on Daniel's video as well, but it's sort of, I think we have kind of the same writing process-ish, and that's one of the things that I try to do with my book as well, and I think I spend too much time here, is definitely making sure every word is saying exactly what I want to. It's not necessarily like sideways progress, as like some people like to say, like, diminishing returns if you keep revising and revising and revising. I don't ever see it that way. I see it as improving the way I'm trying to tell the story, the effectiveness of how I'm trying to tell it, and I can definitely tell that Evan Winter combs over his work a lot and polishes it to make sure that every word says that it needs to say. So that's my review on Evan Winter's Fires of Vengeance. Super good. You guys really need to read this Burning series. I will have to say, at the end of book 2, like I said in my spoilers, it's kind of like this feeling you get because you want to get into book 3 like immediately, and it's not out yet. I think it'll be out pretty soon. I think it's like 3-year gaps between each book, and I think we're coming on like the 3rd year, but I'm really excited. I can't wait to see where it goes, and I love Teo. I love his character development and what he's gone through, and I'm glad that it's not vengeance. This whole like series, we've gotten to this point now where Teo has finally gotten his revenge, his vengeance, whatever. We're getting this other side of him of where he's like, now I need to know what to live for, and now he's living for protecting Chibuye and Tesoria. So he's finding a new meaning of life, and it's sort of terrifying to him because all he's lived with was the revenge that he wanted against Odeli. So it's really cool. I really like where this character's going, and I'm glad the whole thing isn't just like vengeance. It's like Teo's like he's going through an arc and he's really changing, and I really appreciate that. So kind of just a free-flowing thoughts. I don't really script these. I try to just be as natural as possible, and then I cut it together to make it sound as good as possible. But I'll definitely think about doing maybe some theory videos in between my book reviews and talking about my writing, because this one really has gotten my attention a lot, and I love the way that he does his magic system. So if you read this book, I would love to hear your comments on Fires of Vengeance. I really loved it. I would love to hear your likes or dislikes on the book. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.